few weeks ago, I put this poll up on my YouTube community page asking you guys what you've had the most success with in FM22. 1 striker, 2 strikers, 3 strikers, or no strikers. There was 21,872 votes in the poll, and 54% of you voted for 1 striker as the most effective that you found in FM22. 33% said 2 strikers, 8% said 3 strikers, and just 5% said 0 strikers. So I thought I'd put this to the test, and I've tested 4 different tactics with 4 different strike partnerships to find out which one is the most effective. And it turns out that 95% of you, or 20,779 of you, were wrong. First of all, I went to the FM-based tactic tester to download 4 of the best rated tactics for 3 strikers, 2 strikers, 1 striker, and Strikeless. Then I started 4 new saves where I was in charge of Liverpool. Then I loaded up each of the tactics into each of the saves and quick picked it to get the best players in each position. I also used the in-game editor right at the start of the season to put perfect morale on the team, but also maximise existing tactical familiarity, improve team cohesion, remove all bans, injuries, and unhappiness. Then it was a simple case of holidaying towards the end of the season. I holidayed in every single save file to the 31st of May. Then I saved the game at the end of every season and looked at the results. At the end of the season with 3 strikers, Liverpool won the league scoring 105 goals. At the end of the season with 2 strikers, Liverpool won the league scoring 100 goals. At the end of the season with 1 striker, Liverpool won the league scoring 106 goals. And at the end of the season with the strikeless formation, Liverpool won the league scoring 130 goals with 0 strikers on the pitch. So obviously this looked very conclusive that Strikeless was actually the best way forward in Football Manager, and it's what maybe you guys should be using. But obviously just 1 set of results isn't enough, so I replicated it another 2 times so we had 3 sets of results for each tactic. I then put it all into this spreadsheet, and here are the results. So to briefly explain what this spreadsheet shows, you can see we've got the 4 different formations here: the 3 striker, the 2 striker, the 1 striker, and the Strikeless system, and then each of the 3 simulations that I did for each of the formations. We've got the Premier League position, the Premier League points, and the number of goals scored in the Premier League that season, and we've done the same for which round of the FA Cup they've got to and the amount of goals they scored, the same for the EFL Cup and the same for the Champions League. At the very end, you have the total number of goals for the season, and at the bottom in these little boxes, you've got the average for each competition and average total. Now, if we just look at the average total goals, it's actually the 3 striker system that comes out on top, on average scoring 172 goals per season. The 2 striker system scored 161 goals per season, the 1 striker system scored 155 goals per season, and the 0 striker system scored 164 goals per season. However, if we look a little bit more in detail at all the simulations, if we look at Simulation 2 for the 2 striker system, Simulation 2 for the 1 striker system, and Simulation 3 for the 0 striker system, you'll see the average number of goals is way below what the other seasons were. Now, I had a look in-game as to what could maybe cause this, and it turns out those 3 seasons were injury crises for Liverpool. Loads of players were injured, I'll get it on screen right now, but there were some serious injuries for a lot of key players, and because of that, it really hampered the results. If we look at the 2 striker simulation, outside of the 98 goals they got in Simulation 2, they actually scored 181 and 204 goals respectively in Simulation 1 and 2, which is more than all 3 of the seasons with the 3 striker system, but in the 3 striker system, they were very consistent, which is why the average is the highest. The 98 goals scored here, the 80 goals scored here, and the 94 goals scored here really brings down the average, which obviously skews the results in favour of 3 strikers. So what I decided to do instead was scrap the anomalous seasons and just go for the top 2 performing seasons for each formation. And as you can see, it actually works out that the 3 striker system was the worst. The average is actually pulled up to 174.5 goals per season, but that is way below the 192.5 for 2 strikers, the 193 for 1 striker, and surprisingly, the 199.5 goals for Strikeless. So the results still point towards Strikeless being the best way to score goals in Football Manager. But I think to better understand the results, we need to have an in-depth look at each formation. So we'll start off with the Strikeless formation, and if I'm honest with you, it's not really Strikeless, is it, looking at it? Now, this is the top-rated tactic without any recognised striking positions on the pitch, but there are 3 shadow strikers, so essentially, it is 3 strikers. As we can see from the description of the shadow striker, they aggressively push up the pitch into goal scoring positions as the ball moves into the final third and looks to close down opposition defenders. Essentially, every time the ball gets into the attacking third, Salah, Firmino and Mane are all getting into the penalty area trying to score. Essentially, they are supported by Jota and Diaz pumping balls into the middle. Trent and Robertson are also acting as inverted wing backs as well, so they cut inside a little bit and they pump balls into the middle as well for Mane, Firmino and Salah to get onto the end to. But also we have seen in FM22 that inverted wing backs are a little bit overpowered, so this is also adding to the formation. And then Fabinho, as that roaming playmaker a bit further down, he's just spraying balls everywhere looking for the best possible opportunity. So essentially it is a very, very attacking formation. The important point to remember from this though is you've got 3 players here who are always in the penalty area. Now in second place was the 1 striker system, so let's have a look at that formation now. And as you can see, you've got Firmino as a false 9. Now essentially a false 9 is a striker who drops deeper trying to create space for players around him, and that's really important in this formation. We've got Mane and Salah acting as inside forwards, which essentially are strikers, you must say. They're always trying to get into the penalty area to take shots. You've also got Naby Keita and Thiago acting as centre mids on attack, and we've seen that centre mids on attack in this year's FM are so aggressive and so very good at getting into the area. So essentially if Firmino's dropping back creating space, he's allowing space for 4 players to get into the penalty area to take shots. Now centre mids on attack and inside forwards are not going to be quite as aggressive as getting into the area as 3 shadow strikers, but the point remains there are 4 players trying to get in the penalty area to score goals at all times in every attack. The 2 striker system came third, although only by half a goal. So the 1 striker system and 2 striker system you can say are pretty much the same in number of goals that they scored. As you can see though, there are 2 advanced forwards and a shadow striker in behind. Essentially 3 strikers trying to get into the penalty area at all times to score goals. We've already spoken about inverted wingbacks being a bit overpowered. Obviously these guys are running forward to pump balls into the middle with the help of the Mazzala as well, with the playmaker spraying balls all over the place. And if we move finally to last place and the 3 striker system tactic, you can see there's actually quite different compared to the other ones. You've got 1 advanced forward and 2 complete forwards on support. Now the tactic description did actually say that the complete forwards on support act more like wingers. So essentially they're not always in and around the area, they're kind of lurking around to try and put balls in towards Mane. You've got the centre mid on attack always trying to get into the penalty area as well. The Mazzala in support too, but Salah and Jota are also going to be lurking around the penalty area to score some goals as well. So I'm going to see you've got 2 strikers trying to get into the area at all times, and Jota and Salah kind of providing a little bit more, but also getting into the area to try and score goals too. So let's say 3 strikers getting into the penalty area at all times. Interestingly though, there's no roaming playmaker or inverted wingbacks in this one, just wingbacks and a ball-winning midfielder. So can we conclude that Strikeless is the best way to go? Well, no. Actually, I don't think we can say that. If we look at the results again, you can see that actually it's very, very tight across all of them. All of these tactics are incredibly high scoring and get results. Now, obviously, we are judging this based on 2 simulations for each tactic. And if we want to add some validity, we'll keep doing more and more simulations to have 10 simulations for each tactic, 20 simulations for each tactic. But I don't think we need to do that. I don't think it actually comes down to the number of strikers you've got on the pitch. I think it comes down to the number of players getting into the penalty area. You see, all of these tactics have in common is that there are at least 3 players trying to get into the penalty area to score goals at all times. And if you're going to have that number of people in the penalty area at all times, you're going to score goals. I think the more important takeaway are what roles are being used in these formations. 3 of the tactics use an advanced forward, which suggests that is the best goal scoring role for your strikers. 2 of the tactics use central attacking midfielders, but they were exclusively shadow strikers, which suggests that shadow striker is the best role to use if you want to score more goals. But it's not just about getting players in the penalty area. You also need people to provide the ball on a plate for them in the penalty area. And the roles are really interesting. Now, in the 3 striker system, there were wing backs and no playmaker. And that actually finished bottom of the results with the lowest number of goals scored on average. The other 3 formations, which nearly scored 200 goals in every single season, all of them used a roaming playmaker and all of them used inverted wingbacks. And so if you want to be successful in Football Manager, you have to look at the best formations. And what we've discovered essentially is that there are some certain roles that seem to perform a lot better than other roles. Now, obviously some of these roles are quite specialised and it's going to take some decent players to be able to perform well with them. But there's no harm in trying and experimenting, and that's what Football Manager and tactics is all about. So I think what we've learned from this video is that you need to be using an advanced forward and maybe even a shadow striker as well, but also inverted wingbacks and a roaming playmaker. those 4 roles, seem to result in a lot of goals. Now, obviously, we've done some limited testing with a Liverpool side, which is one of the best in the world. What we need to do is more testing with more teams across a range of leagues to find out effectively what is the best number of strikers to use or the best roles to use in Football Manager. But I think what we've seen today is an indication that we're starting to make some progress to find out what is the optimum way to score plenty of goals in Football Manager.